Is everybody aware of what's happening with the common industry swine industry audit? If not, you will by the time this is over. So, you know, the outline, we're going to talk about the background and the history of the quality assurance programs throughout the swine industry, history, industry audit task force, common swine industry audit itself, the next steps, which Dinah's going to cover to PQA Plus, and then Dinah's also going to cover comprehensive quality assurance. You know, the background and history, this is a timeline of the history of quality assurance in the swine industry. This first one was before my time. I'm not even sure what that acronym stands for. Then in 1989, the first PQA program launched here for sulfur residues and food safety. TQA, trucker quality assurance, was launched in 2001 to help with meat quality issues in transportation, overstressing animals, so on and so forth. I remember going to the University of Missouri here in 1976 and 7, working with Dr. Harold Hedrick. As you remember, maybe some of y'all remember him. He did a lot of work on meat quality here at the University of Missouri about that time. SWAP program was introduced. Take Care program was released. PQA Plus program was launched in 2007. 2008, We Care Responsible Pork Initiative. And then in 2008, the Packers also came on board with the PQA Plus programs. What is the PQA Plus program? A comprehensive platform to align producers' performance with market chain expectations. Here again, safe food, humane treatment of animals, needed to be workable, credible, and affordable. Voluntary. It was all voluntary, still is voluntary. The National Pork Board does not mandate that anybody be PQA Plus certified, although most packers do. Designed to be applicable to any pig farm, independent of size, phase of production, building design, geographic location, etc. 2007 was the first version. 2010 was the second version, and then we keep adding to it. 2013 we added a testing component to the PQA Plus program. Shows a clear path of continuous improvement. The program elements are certification, site status, verification, and then always improving on that PQA Plus. You know, is the program successful? No, we think so. 75% of all the pigs in the U.S. are from site-assessed farms. Exposure to the concept of third-party auditing, which we implemented a couple of years ago to see if the program indeed was working. Industry evolution, it's clear, moving towards individual on-the-farm audits to meet customer expectations. A lot of packers came out with different audits of their own, and how do we avoid the British experience? Chris Novak, our past CEO and the board of directors, went to Europe a few years ago, and they were asking producers what their concerns were. And the major concern that they had was some of them had to go up to at least five individual audits to be able to market their pigs. 5. And so we were kind of headed down that same path here in the U.S. in that Hormel had an audit, JBS had an audit, Tyson had an audit, and they were all different. So the Industry Audit Task Force was put together at the recommendation of producers at the 2013 and 14 forum to ask the Pork Board and other entities to get together with all the packing industries, food retailers, wholesalers, and producers to come up with a common audit. And so that's the kind of the history of why we're doing a common industry audit. The Industry Audit Task Force was to facilitate the development of a workable, credible, and affordable on-the-farm verification system. And the objectives are provide stakeholders with a constant, reliable, and verifiable system that assures on-farm animal well-being, eliminates duplication of audits. That's the main thing, to eliminate duplication. So, Scott, if you were selling to Tyson and Triumph and Hormel, if we hadn't come up with something like this, you might have to have 3 different audits. So that's why this has come to being. Here's companies that were represented on the Industry Audit Task Force. A very nice cross-section of producers and packers all across the country. Industry Audit Task Force progress. Exploration in 2013. We learned from others. Can we proceed? Data review. Audit gap analysis. 10 entities submitted different farm audits that they already had in place. 3 main categories of concern. These were the 10 audits that were presented to the Industry Audit Task Force. I can tell you that number 1 here, it's not showing up there, but they're supposed to be listed across the top. Number 1 is PQA Plus. Now, I don't know what the other audits are, whose they are, but the green boxes indicate commonality between all the audits. The white boxes are gaps that some have and some don't. Okay? But here again, this is a PQA Plus program right here. And so we did some analysis on the farm questions as to what industry stakeholders wanted. And they strongly agree with our on-farm animal well-being programs in the pork industry should include independent third-party auditors, not internal, external auditors. Here again, on-farm animal well-being programs in the pork industry should include an educational component to help producers understand and comply with the third-party audit. All packers in the pork industry should follow a consistent program for on-the-farm animal well-being audits so results can be compared from packer to packer. Strongly agreed with that. So from that, those questions, there was overwhelming support for third-party audits by the packers. Strong support for producer education and strong support for consistent baseline standards. Here's some more questions that were asked. On the farm animal well-being audit should be designed to assure appropriate care of the animals based on standards. On the farm animal well-being audits should be designed to address public perception of animal care and practices regardless of what peer-reviewed scientists indicates. The audit results will hold more value for our company, if the audit instrument measures. And then there's certain things that they measure there, facility type. This sometimes referred to as an input-based audit. And then we surveyed pig farmers, pork packers, and retailers and restaurant representatives. And these are the percentage of answers we got from them. I believe blank should be directly involved in establishing standards for on-the-farm animal well-being audits. Here again, another question. I believe the entire supply chain, including farmers, packers, and retailers, should be involved in setting audit standards. Strongly agreed with that. Standards need to be based on science and address public perception and market concerns. Strongest support for producer involvement in standard settings. Strong support for outcome-based audits, but also interest in input-based audits. Here again, some more questions. Basically, all these questions ended up being positive in that we needed a third-party verification and we needed a common audit. When this same group was asked who should do it, there was some concern about this group of people doing it. Academics, facilitated by the National Pork Board, and so on. These were somewhat negative. These were all pretty positive up in here. PACO is a professional animal auditor certification organization. and then also a group of selected academics that is facilitated by a third-party organization other than PACO. So those were ranked the most credible. Here again, some more questions asked. Pork industry audit programs measure on-the-farm animal well-being. Are there other elements of pork production that you believe should be included in the audit farm, in an on-farm audit program? And these were ranked here. Yes, there was more that needed to be included. Worker health and safety, environmental and sustainability checks. Would like all of the PQA Plus Program standards included in the audit, and how the animal is treated during transport as well. So those were in addition, additional items that raised a concern. So here again, strong support for third-party validation, significant difference in supporting for adding additional elements that weren't included in the first part, potential issues to include worker health, safety, environmental impacts, group housing, transport, etc. So these are some of the retailers and wholesalers that work together. Development of a draft framework, development of a draft audit standard, customer engagement. In 2014, 17 partners from 11 food service retail companies were put together, talked about this. Producer packer review, and then had a full audit meeting in May. The progress here on the program, some baiting testing objectives, determine the approximate amount of time to do an audit, determine if the audit tool and standard provides necessary clarity, validate that the strong scoring mechanism is appropriate, and gather input from perspectives of third-party auditors. The beta testing phases were desk review, field testing, and then external review. So, the common industry swine audit is here. We have materials, a vast amount of materials at pork.org, and I want to get out of this just for a second so I can show you where you can find these tools. And if you go to pork.org, okay, go under certification. Then on the bottom right, or top right here, it's got Common Industry Audit. There's a Common Industry Audit itself. You can click on that. Audit Tool Materials, Frequently Asked Questions, and then Resources. At that website, you're going to find the audit materials, Audit Instructions, Audit Standards, Audit Tools, Corrective Action Template, spreadsheets, frequently asked questions, SOPs, record templates. It's all there. It's all put together for you. Make sense? Okay, the audit scope is from birth to transport, animal welfare and food safety. Auditing instructions are all on there, defining the site, scheduling an audit, biosecurity, animal sampling selection, and so on and so forth. Scoring, completing a audit/corrective action. Audit standards. There are only two ways you can fail the audit immediately, and that is willful acts of abuse and not timely euthanizing animals. Those are the only two ways you can automatically fail the audit. Okay? The rest of these you'll be scored on, and depending on which packer you deal with, they may ask for a certain score level for you to pass your audit, or they may ask you to have some corrective actions. But these are the audit standards here. This, the green has all to do with the animal, the blue has all to do with the building and facilities, the purple has all to do with record keeping and more record keeping. Lots of records. You know, I've done some site assessments for producers, and I have never run across any animal abuse. Very rarely have I seen any facilities out of shape. far and away the most problems I have seen in non-compliance is record keeping. We had to redo some corrective action on record keeping. The squares up here indicate what's already included in the PQA Plus program, okay? And site assessments. Am I right on that, Dinah? Site assessments?
Yes.
Okay. This is already included in the PQA site assessments. So these are the additive things, topics that were brought on by the Common Industry Audit.
The only thing I can add to that slide is the 3 bullet points that were added in there at the last that are in the black. Those are items that represent our food safety side of the program. The task force, as we proceeded through this process, wanted to add in the food safety once we met with the retailers and the food chain folks. So that's why those 3 items were added in. It's not something that we've seen on the site assessment before, so that's going to be kind of a different item that producers are going to have to start to look at.
Here again, the auditing score, there's 2 critical pass-fails. That's the willful acts of abuse and timely euthanasia. All other aspects will be given a score. And depending on which retailer or packer you deal with, it may be either a pass or a fail, or it may be a score. Okay, and if the score is low enough, there may be some corrective actions that you're going to have to take to raise that score. Okay. Total and selection scores, defining a passing score. Defining a passing score is up to that packer that you work with. Okay. Audits versus assessments. They are different. Assessments are educational, with education in mind to help the producer. The audits are just a snapshot in time of how that operation is doing. Okay? They're completely different. An assessment is different from an audit. An audit may, help me, Dinah, an audit may qualify for an assessment, but an assessment will not qualify for an audit. Is that correct? Okay. Thank you. So there's some questions here. I've recently completed a site assessment. Will that count as an audit? No, it will not. But here again, it says right here, no, though. It says, I have recently completed a third-party audit. Will that count as an assessment? It says no, because there's no education component to an audit. So I was wrong when I stated that before, that an audit will qualify as an assessment. I was wrong. I need to correct myself on that. Questions about implementation. You know, what if my farm fails an audit? What happens if I refuse to be audited? Do all farms have to be audited? Here again, all these questions will depend on the market where you sell your pigs. It's up to the packer that you're dealing with. Dinah Peebles is the director of our certification programs at the National Pork Board on PQA and TQA. She hails from the western slopes of the Rockies in Colorado, which I always ask her, I need to go out there with her sometime. And she is much more qualified to talk about the next set of slides here than me, so I'm going to turn it over to Dinah. And then after we're done, you can ask questions of both of us.
So next steps for PQA Plus, obviously this is kind of a visual resource that we have. It's our animal benchmarking criteria. We have our site assessment information. That's where we're getting these benchmarking numbers that we've used for this common swine industry audit. We've also asked our producers that already have farm audits that they've been working on to help us with these benchmarking tools. But that's why we have the PQA Plus program. It's funneling into this future program that's up and running at this point in time. PACO certification and auditor training is in the process, and we do have one training already in place with the PACO to get folks certified to do PQA Plus verifications. They are in the process of working on getting things set up to where you can become PACO certified so that you're also eligible to do these third-party audits based upon the packers. So it's not just going to have to be a Validus or a Factor or somebody like that coming in to do your training. Our communication plan at this point in time, we've started putting the information out. It is available on the website. It's been in the magazine. It's also gone in the newsletter on what the common swine industry audit is. So we are putting that out to the producers. As far as the packers go, they have a 30 days, I think it is, that they have to notify their suppliers to say this is going in place. Be prepared. We're going to start sending third-party auditors out to your place. And then our customers, they've talked to the packers. They understand that the packers have implemented this. The packers were willing to wait until December 1st before they started implementing this. So as of January 1st, you're going to see the packers utilizing it. But they had to give that 30-day window to their suppliers to let them know, hey, we're going to start sending the auditors out. And at this point in time, the packers are paying for these audits, and they're looking at that direction for the customer. As far as our discussion on our database, so some of the questions that are coming up is our current third-party verification process that we do after we do the site assessment, is that going to continue when we have packers doing third-party audits too? So if you happen to be one of those lucky individuals that gets drawn by the National Pork Board and your third-party verification is done, and then you're drawn by a packer, so are we going to continue making those our producers go through multiple audits? The answer is going to be no. What we're going to do is the National Pork Board's third-party verification funding and support will now go to this common swine industry audit, provided we can get our aggregate data back from our packers. So we're currently working with the packers to make sure that we can get that aggregate data back, and you will see the third-party verification from the National Pork Board go away, and we will be in support of this common swine industry audit. The reason we had the the third-party verification, we needed to make sure that the PQA Plus educational pieces were being met on the farm. So as long as we can get our aggregate data back and make sure that those educational pieces are still working, we can continue to support this process. The Industry Audit Task Force is doing ongoing efforts. We will continue to meet with each other and go back and look at the benchmarks that have been set for the different 27 points that are currently in the common swine industry audit. If we start seeing some of our benchmarking numbers that we've set at this point in time, if they're a lot lower than what we're finding out on those third-party audits, then we'll increase that benchmark number. So for the pass-fail area. As far as the PQA Plus revision cycle goes, so at this point in time, we're currently in the revision process, and our science and technology department is rewriting the content. All content will be into me by the end of March, and then we'll start doing all of our educational training materials and developing the resources in that direction. So the site assessment components, we had a long, lengthy conversation about this. So currently the common swine industry audit is in place. So we're now going to have a year's gap basically from the common swine industry audit going in place to when the PQA Plus revision is actually done. Because the PQA Plus program will not roll out until 2016 in June. So as far as catching up the site assessment to match the common swine industry audit, we talked about going ahead and rolling it out right now and having it done here and being ready to go by January 1st. But we also thought we'd confuse our producers. We didn't want to put you guys through that. We also didn't want to put our PQA Plus trainers or our advisors through that as well, because I would have had to brought the PQA Plus state trainers in, had a training with them, and then those state trainers would have had to brought all of their PQA Plus advisors in. So for Missouri here, we have 3 state trainers, and there's 200 and some PQA Plus advisors in the state. So again, we had a state trainer, and then all of a sudden they had to have auditors. Don't quote me on those numbers, guys. I'm rough guessing what those are, but that's about right. So we would have brought those guys in, and then here 6 months later, because January 1st I will start having, or the first part of 2016, I will start having state trainers coming in, and we're going to start going over the PQA Plus 2016 version that will roll out in June. So we didn't want to put those advisors and trainers through that 6 months coming in, and 6 months later I bring them back in and have to get them caught back up on the program. So the site assessment is going to stay current of what it is, even though that common swine industry audit is out there. If we have told PQA Plus advisors if they want to be proactive and help their producers, they are more than welcome to start utilizing the tools through the common swine industry audit as they do those site assessments. so that producer is prepared if that packer brings out that third-party audit, if they get selected here in 2015. Data entry is going to stay the same. The advisors will enter it in our current system the way we have, and again, we're still working with the packers to make sure we can get that aggregate data back out. And then as far as the third-party verification thing, like I said, it will eventually roll in. We'll do away with the National Pork Board third-party verification, and we'll start utilizing the data coming out of the Common Swine Industry Audit Database. As far as timeline goes for PQA Plus, again, the content has to be done here March 31st. The SciTech directors will sign off on the content. We'll then start doing educational materials development, the online pieces, the training materials, and all that will be developed. Beta testing will take place with that through some PQA Plus advisors working with some producers out in the field. And then, like I said, the first of 2016, we'll start doing trainer trainings at the start of the year. And then those trainers will start working with the advisors. The program will officially roll out in June of 2016. And at this point in time, the way the PQA Plus Task Force has directed the group is that they would like to align the PQA Plus program more with the We Care ethical principles. So we will do, those will be the 6 general chapters. And then under those 6 We Care ethical principles will be the good production practices. We will still have the good production practices, and there will still be 10 of them, but they will be based under those We Care ethical principles. The other thing that we've kind of come up with is kind of aligning the training and the resources and tools so that folks understand where we are on the farm. So we start at the farm gate. You obviously go through biosecurity, come in and work with your vet, medicine, record keeping. Then we're going to go work with the animals. From the animals, then we'll go work with worker safety. Then you'll go into your environment, and then the final piece is obviously rolling back out to the community. So it's going to be a cycle as you work through the barn like you normally would, and going, obviously ending up in your community. So hopefully that will help our barn workers and our caretakers understand where exactly they are in that PQA Plus educational piece. At this point in time, the resources for producers, again, Rob showed you where the common industry audit tools are at. The SOPs have been written. They are done in the templates, so you can adapt them to your own farms and operations, or customize them. I guess not adapting is the word. And then we're going to start conducting PQA Plus certifications for our advisors. They'll start working with you as producers as we get through these SOPs. During an audit, the producer can ask for anybody to attend, and we do encourage our PQA Plus advisors to attend these audits so they understand what that snapshot was that day. That auditor, when he's on the place, is not supposed to provide any kind of educational feedback. They're just supposed to go through and mark down compliant, not compliant, things like that. And if you have a question as to why you failed, they can answer that, but they can't tell you how to fix it, or they're not supposed to. That's why if you have your advisor there, they can help you with those SOPs or the corrective actions to help fix those issues that you did find on those audits. One thing we do ask while the auditors are out on your place, and it doesn't matter if it's the packer that sent the third-party auditor out there or if it's the National Pork Board that's paid for it to come out, we do not want you obstructing the audit process. So extra things are interfering with the auditor while they're out there, and that we ask the producers just let that person do their snapshot while they're out there and get that audit done. After the audit is over, then that auditor will review what they found, where you were incompliant, and the points that they saw there. That's when you can ask, is there anything else that we could do or something like that, or ask that advisor while they're sitting there. You can also discuss maybe the root cause. Maybe that third-party auditor can actually see what the root cause is. As we're on our farms every day, we overlook quite a bit of stuff because we see it on a daily basis. That fresh set of eyes coming out can help probably see something on the farm. And if you get hit with a nonconformance, they're a little easier to help you. Hey, why did you do that? Can you help me figure out what my problem is there? Again, work with your PQA Plus advisor to do those corrective action compliance back. And then you'll have to send that back into whomever the auditor was so that you can get documentation that can go back to the packer that says that the audit has been completed, if the corrective actions have been submitted, and your information is in the system. Questions on anything so far? Okay. Our comprehensive quality assurance. So again, the site assessment, the PQA Plus, and this common swine industry audit is a continual improvements process. We start with the training piece of the PQA Plus educational. One of the questions that's come up, so are we going to have to continue with both PQA Plus and TQA? It is a requirement in the common swine industry audit that the farm has PQA Plus and TQA certification on that. So the training material or the training educational piece will be there. And then you have to go to the site assessment. There might be some management decisions that are changed after you go through an audit. So that audit will have reflection back up to, whoa. Sorry, not sure which button I pushed. That audit has an effect on those other materials or other steps within your PQA Plus, within your swine operation and your business. You guys are a business, so we have to make sure that we treat you as a business and you understand that. So training, same as any other industry. You guys put your folks through training before you probably send them out to the farm. Management, you're overseeing what's going on. And then the assessment, you want an evaluation. How are we doing? Are we making money? Are we losing in this area? So it's all this business cycle, educational cycle, and that continual improvement. So in summary to this, obviously things have changed over the last 25 years of history for quality assurance. Rob listed out the timeline that we had at the start, where we've been, where we've come, where the future leads. We have no idea, but we have a glimpse as to some of our areas that we need to be working on. But that PQA Plus program, the common swine industry audit, is always going to continually evolve. We do want to engage with our customers. We want them to gain understanding and the perspective from our side of the fence. We do have a lot of customers now that have called and asked to put their sales and marketing teams through the PQA Plus program. So they are trying to see what you guys are doing at the producer side of the program. But they want their perspective. They want to provide some input back to help us better our industry. And as long as we keep that communication open, I think that's a good way to continually evolve. And then finally, embracing this comprehensive assurance process. So which audit or what piece is going to be the main component? Again, it's going to depend on who your marketer is and who you're going to. If it's going to be required, how frequently you have to do it, who pays for it. All of this is dependent upon them. What's the pass-fail score? We will, as a task force, continue to monitor that bell curve and make sure that we're keeping everybody up there similar to one another so that you as producers aren't confused or having issues out there that one packer's doing this versus what the other packer might do. The other thing is once you go through a common swine industry audit with one packer, at this point in time, we've got the groups to under the understanding that they will recognize an audit from another packer. So if Triumph's the one that came out and did your audit, if you also sell to Smithfield or Hormel and stuff like that, they can go into this common swine industry audit database and pull, provided with your permission. If you by chance get pulled by both packers and you're supposed to be audited by both, if you've already been audited by Packer A, you can tell Packer B, I've already been audited. You're welcome to my information off of audit number 1. Here's the information and how to get to it. So they can go into that database and look at it so you won't have to go through that second audit. Now, if there is something on audit 1 that Packer B would like to see you correct and they want to see and make sure that it's been corrected, they can send that third-party verifier back out to third-party auditor back out to your place and check the points that you had those non-corrective components to. But at least you might not have to go through the full audit. Or if you're lucky enough, then they'll recognize that audit and they won't send anybody back out because you didn't have any non-conformances that were very eye-opening for them, so they won't send that auditor back out. So that's what we're talking about here, that anyone's available to it, but it still has to have your permission to pass to Packer B.